go ahead and record. Look at that. Somebody read my mind. Okay, so we're recording now. We can start with the first slide. All right, so we're going to do our presentation and then we'll do Q&A at the end. We do have lots of stuff to cover, so if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat and we'll address them, or just save them for the end and we'll have time for that. We're going to start off with some board member introductions, current board members, and then we'll move to our new board members. And so and then we're going to talk about 22 and review, strategic planning for 23. The big thing we've got going on this year is the launching of our capital campaign. So we've got a few slides on that. Got a report out from the outreach team and some call for volunteers, and then some information about a possible partnership. All right, so if we go to the next, or we can start right here actually before we go to the next slide, and maybe Tim, if you stop sharing real quick, we can introduce ourselves as a board, and probably just alphabetical order would be the best idea.
Okay, is it first name Adam?
First name, yeah, Adam.
Okay, I'm Adam Samanel. I'm a longtime board member. I live in downtown Hillsborough.
My name is Alyssa, and I have been a board member for a pretty short time. I live in Hillsborough as well, and I've been a co-op member for, I think, about 5 years.
All right, I think it's my turn now. Good morning, I'm Brandon. I'm a longtime board member and also the president of the board right now.
I get J before M, right? Hi, I'm Jennifer Hardiker. I'm a board member for, this is finishing my second year here. I actually live in Forest Grove, and I actually have only been a member a little longer than I've been a board member.
Maybe my turn. I'm Mary Beth Danielson. I live out officially Cornelius, but kind of out in Shoals. I've been a board member for a year now, probably as of today. And I've been a member for a very long time. I don't even know how many years.
That brings us to Sean.
Oh, my name is Sean Starr. I've been a board member for a couple of years.
Hi, this is Tim Farrell. I also have been a board member for a couple of years, been a member since 2017, lived in Hillsborough for many years, raised our kids there, and now live in Forest Grove.
And I am Toby Page, and I have lived in Hillsborough and been a member and been on the board all for about 6 years. So I just jumped right in when I moved here. I've been the board treasurer, and yeah, that's me. Is that everybody? I think that's the alphabet. Okay. All right. So thanks, Tim. If we could go back to the slideshow, I'll introduce our newest board members, newly elected as of today. We have, and I hope I don't butcher their last name because I don't think they're here, but Aaron Rubachi, Mike Shepard, and Kyle Dykstra. So 3 very talented, passionate, excited people to join the board, which is always so cool. I love this time of year when we get some, fresh ideas coming in and some fresh spirit. We are going to be having a few board members leave. So if you've done the math, that's more than 11. And so we are going to be saying goodbye to a couple of our board members as they exit. So I think we're going to be seeing Alyssa, Jennifer, and Kirsten be more supportive off the board. All right, so then on the next slide, we have our look back at 2022 and what happened there. One of the big things that happened is that our faithful outreach and volunteer coordinator, Roberta, moved to Port Townsend. So this was, a big shock at first. We really relied on Roberta to do a lot of that outreach and connection with our volunteers. Haven't really decided if we're going to replace her directly or maybe alter that position a little bit. So that's a big change that we're looking at this year. And we have still continued to participate in our peer groups, which has been so incredibly helpful. There are so many co-ops right now at the same exact stage that we're at, the stage 2B planning and feasibility. They actually had to have 2 separate groups. There were so many. So we're in a group with 6 other co-ops, all sharing, you know, our struggles and our successes and how we did this and how we did that, how to open a co-op in 2023. So that's been awesome. 2022 had some membership growth. I wouldn't say rapid. 116 new member owners joined us. So we are still growing, which is awesome. And we ended the year at 879 owners. I think our goal was something around 1,000. So we are definitely pushing for more owners this year. Another big change that we have is that we've hired professional consultants. As most of you know, our board members are all volunteers and nobody has ever opened a co-op before. So we are passionate people, we're smart people, we're hardworking people, but the people that we've hired actually know how to open a co-op. So we've hired Katie Novak as our capital campaign consultant. She's really more of our guide. She's done lots of successful capital campaigns and we really enjoy working with her. So she's helping us get that groundwork set and she'll be with us all the way through, which is awesome. We also hired a professional named Don Moffitt, who is in the co-op world. He is the numbers guy. He's the pro forma guy to help us really make sure that the numbers that we're guessing about are really educated guesses and are in line with the latest research in the market, which Don Moffitt really keeps his finger on. So we're lucky to have him. And then we've also hired or brought on some legal counsel to help us navigate, make sure that anything that we're doing is perfectly in line with Oregon law. So that's a look back at what we were doing in 2020. And I think Brandon's going to share a little bit about what 2023 might look like.
Thanks, Toby. I'm going to be talking about our strategic planning initiatives. These are initiatives that we developed as a board a couple of years back, and we've really just refined these through time. You can also see that we have our vision and mission statement up there on the slide. So the first strategic planning initiative that we have is around our financial strategy. We're thinking about this in 2 different ways. The first way is just funding our near-term development. One of the new opportunities for us in this path for just funding our development is trying to find a fiscal sponsor who is a nonprofit that can allow us to take in donations under the nonprofit tax advantaged lens to fund projects alongside a nonprofit. We're looking at doing this with the national cooperative called Columinate. There may be other partners that we work with too for the fiscal sponsorship. The second area for our financial strategy is just starting to execute on our capital campaign. There will be lots more to talk about with that. A lot of volunteer needs, a lot of money to raise, and I think Adam's going to be covering that in more detail later on in the presentation today. The second strategic planning initiative for us is the resource strategy. So as Toby just mentioned, we're putting a temporary hold and not backfilling the volunteer coordinator position. We are expanding into other areas with paid consultants, but we've had to make some difficult decisions with our budget to really best utilize the limited resources that we have now. Just to, as an anecdotal feedback and to put it out there, we're starting to get to the point of development where we really have to spend down some of the cash that we have in reserves. And this year, we're anticipating a need for pretty significant ownership growth to really do a lot of the things that we want to do this year as far as spend goes. So just something to keep in mind and to keep our eyes on as we work through and eventually open the store. And the third area of our strategic planning is organizational development. This continues to evolve. It's evolved since I started on the board and just sort of building out our organization and hierarchy of different teams and committees. There's a lot going on, and just, I guess, another plug for more volunteers as we build out our organization further and finally open the store. And that is it for me on this slide, and I'm going to give it back to Toby.
All right. Sarah Jo, we will be definitely reaching out to you and finding out the best way that you would like to help support the opening of our co-op. So just to give you an idea of what are we doing, how are we following in the strategies that we've set out. And well, the FCI stage 2B identifies that we need to first have an organized group with commitment, interest, and capacity. This doesn't happen without volunteers. Your board is all volunteer. Roberta was our one paid person ever. And so we 11 people cannot open a store by ourselves. We need the rest of the membership to be stepping up and helping with the volunteer needs that we have. The board of directors is here to help with decision making and direction, but we need volunteers. So it's not a requirement for membership, but we will not have a store if we don't get more. So in case you missed our first one last month, we are holding more interest events. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the volunteer interest events later, and we'd be happy to talk with you. So we do have 11 board members. This is the largest board we've ever had. That's awesome. We have amazing talent, very talented, fun group. And then our next strategy is to assess the market potential and internal readiness. So, you know, we have done, let's see, sorry, I had some notes here about this. Raising money will be a big focus of 2023. So we will hold small fundraising events throughout the year, in addition to garnering grants through our fiscal sponsorship that Brandon talked about. These funds will be used for operations, professional consultants, and our capital campaign. The market studies are site specific, and in 2019 we had a market study done on a hypothetical location. This kind of helped us understand the potential grocery store landscape in Hillsborough better. We still have 2 additional sites that we can utilize our studies for, but we need to have a site to actually plug that in. And let's see, fundraising, market, board of directors, professionals, pro forma. Your co-op is building organizational capacity by having 11 board members. We have several established committees, and we are looking for volunteers to join those committees. We've hired professional consultants, like I mentioned before, and retained legal counsel. And so I think I've spoken to all the things that we're doing this year to bring this to fruition. The next slide talks about the financials. So Brandon touched on the idea that we have limited resources. So in 2022, we spent just under $40,000. And at the beginning of this year, we had on hand about $34,000. So we see that there is a need for increased fundraising. And we need to be really strategic about how we do this. So we have some large expenditures coming up. We will no longer be paying for the volunteer coordinator position, but we will need more money this year than we did last year. So we'll get that through grants, owner equity, and fundraising events that are separate from the capital campaign.
All right, this is Alyssa, and I'm going to talk really quick about the site selection committee. I have been involved with the site selection committee in 2022. Currently, we are not meeting. We're sort of on pause. We kind of had our last activity earlier this year. Before we can sign a lease on a location, we do need some extra funding, which Toby was just talking about, for kind of, you know, any rent, down payment, and to engage any design professionals to help us renovate the space. So we are sort of on pause until we have that capital campaign / fundraising and grants kicking in. And the good news is that 2022 is spent developing our site screening criteria and the site selection plan. So we are absolutely ready to jump into action when the call is made. And that's really, it's really nice that we've done the groundwork for that. We've also started interviewing some professionals, contractors, architects, store designers. So we also have a small network of people to call upon when we may or may not need them. So kind of exciting. We've laid the groundwork, but we are on a quick break. And this would be the committee if you are interested in, you know, kind of having a say in how the store looks and helping us maybe navigate the construction world, stuff like that. So if that's something that's interesting to you, you can keep site selection committee in mind, because we will be active at a future date, hopefully not too long in the future. Oh, and if you have any tips, if you have any tips on a location, we're always willing to take that information. So we're looking for something between 7,000 and 10,000 square feet at the moment. You know, maybe you're a landlord or you work somewhere and your business is moving, and you know that space will be vacant. So if so, just send us an email or flag us down at the farmer's market.
All right, thanks, Alyssa. Give a quick update on our business planning committee. The committee is currently on pause. We did do a lot of work in 2022, early in 2022, in terms of putting together our initial business plan and pro forma, but we've moved it forward. We've hired, as mentioned, a business consultant, Don Moffett from Culminate. Based on that, we've been working through getting an official Rev Zero of our pro forma based on the elements of that plan. That's on the right here. I won't walk through that. Some of it is what Alyssa just talked to in terms of what we're targeting from a site. And really the focus was, okay, how do we take that information and develop a plan that is financially feasible, make sure we define it such that we have financial metrics that we can achieve. So that's kind of where we are from a business planning. We've established that capital required to finance this is roughly 2.25 million, and that would be between grants and the actual capital fundraising.
Hey, everybody. My name's Adam, and I've been helping get the capital campaign planning started. And so that's me being the interim chair of the capital campaign committee. I'm going to talk a little about that and give an update here. So just to start, though, think about, like, when we visit the grocery store, we all tend to think a lot about the price of food on the shelves. But maybe what we don't usually think about is the price of the shelves and the price of the fridge and the freezers and the cash registers and all that stuff. And it's really expensive to open a grocery store. So like Tim just said, that 2.25 million number, that's a pretty big number. So next slide. How do we get that? Like, how will we fund the store? So here's just a super simple view of the big picture finances. That little blue slice, the small slice of the pie, is the owner equity, where your $200 member owner share that you bought, that's that part of the pie. Then the next part is the owner investments, which would take us up to about, say, 50%, and that would be our capital campaign. And then the last half would be, commercial bank loans and hopefully grants or other things that we can get. So, yes, next slide. So the capital campaign committee is charged with creating and executing a plan to raise these funds. And you can see here in the circle in the center, we've got kind of a core planning team, which is awesome. It has great people helping, and that team feels pretty good to me. We've been meeting every week and doing homeworks in between and moving things forward. But you can see here, there's a lot of teams around it when we get to putting everything together. That's Toby mentioned volunteering. We're still going to need to find in the ownership base and in the community people to help with all these other areas. But let's jump to the next slide. I'll talk a little about owner investments. So that piece of the pie that was a big chunk there, what are owner investments? Owner investments are an exclusive opportunity for HFC owners to invest in the co-op and get a return. It's a benefit of being an owner. Only owners can invest. No one else can invest, really. They would have to become an owner. And this is a flexible way that co-ops have raised money for centuries. It's, the nature of the legal structure of the co-op. So a typical small business would be funded probably by a very small number of very large investors. I think this is something we're kind of familiar with. You hear about angel investors or VC investors, but a co-op would be having the same need for capital to start a business, but we would have a very large, relatively larger number of small or moderate investments from owners like you. So those investments would usually take the shape of member loans or preferred shares. And a lot of people aren't familiar with preferred shares, but I put a few notes here that you can read. We are trying to put together our offering for investors to include both the option of loans and the option of shares. And those will have pros and cons that'll, all that detail will come out. Somebody who wanted to invest in a loan can imagine a fixed return that comes at a reliable schedule, maybe every quarter or every month. But a preferred share would be something that would receive dividends in return, but might be more subject to the performance of the co-op over time. But you might hold the shares indefinitely until someday that the co-op was flush with cash and wanted to maybe buy them back. So all that stuff is getting put in place by the committee, and we're getting tons of great help from Katie. One of the things that we have to do there, and we're almost done, is to adjust the articles of incorporation. And that's a legal step that we have to put in place, and it has to be owner approved. So you can anticipate some communication in the near future about a special meeting, and then we'll have a vote, an owner vote at that special meeting. That's just like the requirements of our bylaws if we want to change anything in the articles or bylaws. So that's coming soon. We've been working with legal on that and have a draft of a thing called a certificate of designation, which specifies all the details about preferred shares and how those can be offered by the co-op. Okay, so I said a lot there. It's kind of, I'm going to take a breath and do a super short video in the next slide. That's by industry expert John Steinman. He wrote the book called Grocery Story, and it kind of summarizes some of what I've just covered. So let's go ahead and do that, Tim.
Before this cooperative grocery store was built in 2016, 179 of its customers loaned the co-op $1.8 million to build it. Before this co-op was built in 2020, its future customers loaned the co-op $500,000 to build it. In 2021, 330 founding member owners loaned $1.75 million to begin construction on their store, slated to open in 2023. When building any new business, it's common for the founding owners to invest their own money to make that vision real. With a consumer cooperative, those owners are you, hundreds of you. As an investor into your future grocery store, you receive potential earnings and a delicious return on your investment in the form of food. An investment into your food co-op is an investment into you and into future generations.
So I get kind of inspired seeing that. Here's just a slide with other recent successes. Like, it's good to know we're not alone. We've got Fredericksburg Food Co-op raised 1 point something million. I know these are a little hard to see these numbers. And then Oshkosh is in here. And then Food Shed was one that John talked about. And then he talked about 2 others. So that's five different co-ops in the last few years, raising this similar amount of money that we're talking about, and working with, frankly, some of the same people that we're working with, i.e. Katie Novak. So that's just, just to help people kind of be familiar with how this is nothing unusual here, and we're in good company. You can also see, if you squint a little at the numbers in the top row, how many owners these co-ops had when they launched their capital campaign. And we're at about 900. we're really right where we need to be. We're not behind on having the right number, although we would be more comfortable to have a few more owners before we would start, because the number of owners relates directly to how much you'll ultimately be able to raise, which kind of makes sense if you just, use it as a multiplier. So I'll wrap up on the next slide, which is really just kind of, I wanted to point people back at the org chart, and it's a big project, this capital campaign thing. We're doing the planning now, but there's many more pieces that have to still be put in place. And so, we really need owners that want to maybe volunteer, and of course, think about your future investment that you would make when we do the capital campaign. There's a May 10 volunteer interest event coming, so I just want to mention that. I think that if any of these teams seem like things that, I could probably do a small way to help with that, then it'd be really easy to have a conversation at the volunteer interest event, where I will be, of course. And or just you can just reach out directly anytime. So yeah, there's a lot to do to raise the funds we need to open our store, and I hope that gives kind of a picture of how that works. So thanks. So Jennifer, I think you're going to talk about outreach next. Thanks.
Hi, yes, I'm here to talk about the outreach team. The outreach team has a bunch of different charges, but this year in particular, following on what Adam was talking about, part of what we'll be doing is helping with the awareness raising and also education raising about the capital campaign for our ownership base. But of course, we still have to get to that 1,000 number. So we'll also be working hard to attract new owners. Tim, can you? So we, again, kind of that's the 2 main areas, that the big headers to recruit new owners and volunteers, and then also to create community for owners. Tim, can you? And so under those larger umbrellas, then we can think about all of the various specific things that we do. So all about us at the booth, and that's a huge way in which we are out there getting the word out about HFC. A good portion of our new owner growth comes from the booths. And so please, if you can, sign up to be at those booths. Over the summer at the various markets, you know that we're always at the Saturday market in Hillsborough, the Wednesday market in Forest Grove, the Tuesday night market, and then various other specific events like Pride and so on. This year, we are going to be tabling, perhaps not every weekend. Last summer, we had a lot of problems manning those booths every week. And so we are scaling back on the number of booths that we do over the summer, but we still need plenty of help on those. Of course, Karen Smith, longtime volunteer, takes care of our social media, or kind of oversees that for us, with some other volunteers helping. We do a lot in terms of marketing and promotions. And then guerrilla marketing, and I'll talk to you about upcoming guerrilla marketing tactic that we're getting excited about. As far as what we do for our owners, we host events. So over the last year, we hosted several happy hour events. We hosted actually John Steinem that you just saw in the video. We had a speaker event. We hosted him in partnership with Pacific University. Again, Karen's always letting you know the news via the newsletter and then the social media. And under our outreach team umbrella is also partner relations. I know Mary Beth Danielson has also been working on that. And so let us know too if you are a small business owner or know of small businesses that want to be related to the co-op. We do a lot of our promotions and so on with those kinds of folks. Tim? So as you saw, we grew 116 members this year. We're at 889. That's not quite 1,000. We'll have to work really, really hard to get that 1,000. And the goal is 1,000 by the fall, not by the end of the year. So we can launch that capital campaign. Yeah, go ahead, Tim, thanks. This slide just showing, this was last year. We had a guess, and Toby already told us that we had 116 over the course of the year, which is great. So 116 owners in 2022. Here's some of the things that we're looking forward to. The t-shirts just came in. This has been something the outreach team has wanted to do for several years. And so we're really excited to have the t-shirts finally. The t-shirts can be gotten by being an active volunteer. So we'll be, especially those people that are working at the booths and so on, we want you to wear those with pride when you're representing HFC out there in the world. This is another great way, we kind of have always had our yard signs, and our yard signs have been hugely popular in terms of the ways in which people learn about us. We always hear at the booth, I see your signs, I see your signs. And then that's what drives them to come and actually talk to us. But we kind of saturated the yard sign. We will still do that, of course, but we also thought, well, people walking around with our logo on their chest is another great way, right, to do some of that kind of advertising for us. So you'll also be able to, if you're interested, to get a t-shirt by making a donation and a sliding scale donation on the website. Again, Toby talked about all the fundraising that will need to happen this year. This isn't necessarily a fundraiser. This is just to get you in a beautiful t-shirt. So the donation that we're asking for is just barely above the actual cost of the t-shirt to us. You'll be seeing lots of social media and other advertisements for our Bubble Up campaign that's coming in May. And this is, again, an owner recruitment promotion in relationship with Peace of Mind soap. So Peace of Mind is a small business. You might see them out at the markets. The owner has generously donated more than several soap baskets that we'll be giving away to folks who sign up as new owners in May. So if you know somebody that's out there that's been waiting to become an owner, tell them they can be clean and squeaky this month if they become an owner. I mentioned a guerrilla marketing tactic that we're getting excited about and gearing up for, and that is the door hanger campaign. So please be looking out for calls for volunteers for that event. We're going to start small and just see how it works. But of course, what this means is going around to houses and hanging the little door hanger thing as just another way to get information about the co-op in front of people. Can I just say that, again, there's kind of these rules about how many times people have to see something before they'll act on it. And I think the rule is like 7. So, right, passing yard signs, seeing people in a t-shirt, getting a door hanger, seeing us at the booth, seeing our social media, all of these things may seem like overkill, but for a lot of people, it's, this kind of constant like, oh, okay, what is this HFC thing? And then that's how we get people to really follow up and learn more about us and then hopefully become owners. As I mentioned, market booth season is coming. And Tim, if you can. And so your outreach event here, as you've heard already, we lost Roberta this year. Roberta was a huge engine in the outreach team. We are a small, consistent group of folks in the outreach team, and we just are already working at capacity and doing everything that we can. And we'd love, love, love if, sometimes folks can't commit to being with us every week. But if you could just think of an event that you want to make happen and kind of drive that would be an amazing thing, especially with the summer coming up. We'd love to see some new volunteer energy, organizing things like the happy hours or summer picnics or any number of things. Roberta used to, get us all together to go do volunteer events together. Those kinds of things would be wonderful. And I'd love to see some folks with a passion for those kinds of things to take the driver's seat on that. Tim? And so as you heard, we are having another volunteer interest event in May, so May 10th. It's a Wednesday evening, and the location is at the Downtown Hive. I actually just put in the chat the registration link for that event. So thank you very much for listening to me, and then I'll pass it on.
Hello, I'm back. I just wanted to clarify the name of the business partner that we're working with. It's Piece of Soap and not Piece of Mind Soap. Dale put that in the chat just to make sure we're all on the same page. But the real reason I'm a little bit nervous and twitchy is we kind of have a big announcement. Thanks, Jennifer. We have a real late breaking and pretty big announcement. As you know, last year, HFC had participated as part of a request for proposal team. The Block 67 project that the city of Hillsborough opened up for proposals was something we were very interested in. We had participated sort of on the front end and engaging with the city and working to really define criteria and what types of businesses community members would like to see as part of that development project. Unfortunately, our partner who we were going to bid on this project with sort of collapsed on us at the last hour. It was outside of our control. However, there was one RFP team that was successful, which included an independent grocer named Fresh Foods. They operate 2 stores out on the Oregon coast. I'm from Washington, was up on the Washington coast last weekend. I got to see their new store up in Seabrook, which was really cool. Tim and I have met with Fresh Foods on a couple of different occasions to see if they had interest in partnering with us, and it turns out they do. We found a lot of alignment in our business values and have really started to talk about what types of terms our shared business could have. Just to sort of maybe lay a little more groundwork, we're hoping to partner with them as part of creating a joint venture, a new business, an LLC, in which the Hillsborough Food Co-op is a member of, as well as Fresh Foods. There are going to be quite a few fine details for us to clarify with our ownership base, as well as clarify with Fresh Foods. But the board sees that there are several benefits. We've listed those on the slide, as well as some risk associated with this alternate path. We've talked with FCI in getting guidance on this, and they didn't really have a lot of guidance for us necessarily, just because this isn't something that has been tried a lot by other co-ops, but it is something that we feel like as a board is a really unique opportunity for us. I think for me, one of the most significant and appealing differences is that in partnering with Fresh Foods on this new build, we would actually have an equity stake in the building and real estate associated with the standalone store. So that's kind of what we have prepared to talk about today. This is sort of late breaking news for us. We're planning on reaching out to the owner base at some point over the next few weeks, and we're going to seek feedback from owners to better understand if there are any issues that are important to the ownership base as far as if we do partner and have an independent grocer running the store, are there concerns? Are there values that we think people are going to be caring about that are potentially lost with this joint venture? And then after we gather some feedback from the ownership base, we would eventually also have a vote to make the decision to move forward or not to move forward. So I know there's a lot of information. I don't know if we're going to have the ability to answer all of the questions today. I think I would prefer not answering questions because we don't have all the details, and just know that there's more to come, but we wanted to share this since it is new and exciting for us. So with that bomb drop, I think we're ready to move into the Q&A. I see thumbs up from Dale, so that's making me feel a little more comfortable.
Great. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, but we have a small enough group that I feel like if anybody has any questions or wants to discuss anything, you could probably just take yourself off mute and we could chat.
Do we want to stop sharing slides so we can see people's faces?
Oh, that's a good idea. I might just mention about that partnership thing. I think that we should acknowledge this can be kind of like a scary idea for owners and surprising. And that's why I want to make sure everybody understands that there's no way that this partnership would happen. Just like there's no way the straight up HFC co-op store would happen without owners all involved and supporting it, because otherwise there's no capital campaign. I mean, this would still be a investment in a store, but it could be a Hillsborough Food Co-op branded store, but the partnership of the operation of the store and everything would be quite different. But in a lot of ways, those are advantages to us because suddenly we've got these people with a lot of expertise helping operate a larger store, et cetera. So I know I think like Brandon mentioned, there's probably going to be a zillion questions. I think the important thing now is that we're ready to now maybe we could get a core group of owners who would be willing to focus on this with us and kind of study it and figure it out and find out if it's the right thing for the co-op owners. We as a board kept discussing this and supporting the idea of investigating it because it feels like there's a lot of opportunities and that are for owners. That's why we're here. Just wanted to add that in. Who's got questions?
I do. My name is Keith Gilman, and I think I've been an owner for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. So I really like the idea of the food co-op as far as I understand it, but of course I need to learn more about it. I was just asking Jessica what I could do to get more involved this year because I do have a little bit of free time that I can help out with some things. And yeah, I find it as a part owner, I find it a little alarming, that we would need to partner with somebody, partner with an outfit to try to get the store open. But of course, I understand that we lack the expertise and the capital to get it off the ground. So yeah, if I were going to communicate with the owners, I would definitely be, explain where we're coming from if you're asking for buy-in from the owner community. And I look forward to working with folks this summer. I'm going to go to the event on May 10th and learn about what I could do. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Keith.
We can't wait to meet you in person at our event on the 10th. Thank you. Tim, can you stop sharing the deck so we can be a group again? Thanks.
So I was just wondering if there was any consideration in partnering with the Oregon Food Bank.
In what capacity are you
yeah.
imagining, Betty?
I'm sorry, what was that?
In what capacity are you imagining that we partner with them?
Just an experience and, expertise in the handling of food and, marketing and that sort of thing. Not necessarily monetary, because I know that everybody's struggling in that area. But yeah, just curious.
Sure. Yeah. No, we're always looking for organizations that we can connect with, be like-minded, and them being more of a nonprofit that might look more like a combined, fundraising event or something, awareness event that we could do with them. But yeah, thanks for that idea.
Yeah, and I think we've participated in some outreach events with them, not necessarily in person, but this was maybe a year and a half ago. But just getting to know some of the players with the food bank, as well as giving them some feedback on how to enhance food delivery and make sure those who are vulnerable in the area can be supported. And that was something that was really important, I think, to the food bank, especially during the pandemic era. So thank you, Betty.
Sure. Here's another question. Has there been any direct targeting to the vendors who participate in the Saturday markets or the food markets, farmers markets? Directly asking them if they would be willing to invest?
Do you want to take that, Jennifer?
Well, I don't know that the investment question has come up. Of course, we're talking to those vendors often, and some of those are already kind of HFC business partners. If you look on the website, for example, Sparrowhawk Farm. But yeah, no, we haven't approached them for an investment opportunity.
And I think that's, yeah, sorry, Jennifer. I think that sort of thing, Betty, would be part of our capital campaign. So when we do the capital campaign, that's where we're looking for maybe those larger investments. And so we know that we want to be bringing in these local farmers, producers to be part of the store, and maybe looking at what that might look like. It might look like a bigger partnership, maybe a juice bar or, something like that. Or we might have other kind of arrangements, but we're currently working on the relationships with our local vendors. We just haven't asked them for money yet. If that makes sense.
Any other questions? Thanks, Betty.
Hey, this is Jessica Gilligan. I guess I'll just kind of throw out a comment, excuse me, as someone who grew up on the coast and I've shopped at Fresh Foods all my life. I'm interested, I guess this is also a question. I'm interested if conversations so far have been talked about where Fresh Foods might make some changes that are kind of more co-op friendly at their other stores. They do some really cool things. They have, some neat private labels that they've done with local growers and producers. But I definitely see room for improvement when comparing Astoria Co-op and Fresh Foods, two of the major players on the coast. It just seems like there's some room for improvement. And as a co-op, maybe we can help them along with their other stores as well. Has that been talked about?
Go ahead, Tim.
I'll jump in here. Not specifically in terms of where they could improve, but in general, in terms of working closer to, in fact, in our most recent meeting, talking about having a lot of food co-op voice in, at least in the Hillsborough operation, which, because, it would be very beneficial for them to have consistencies across the stores. I think it would have an influence to the others. So I think they're open to it. They're very much in favor of the whole co-op concept and want to participate in it. And their values and vision is very aligned to generic co-op vision, and specifically Hillsborough Co-op. I would be interested in a list of things where you think that they don't size up to co-op standards. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I could put a list together, and I understand that food co-ops too kind of adapt to what their community wants, what their member owners want, as far as what kind of ethnic foods will we have. Will we lean more organic or conventional? It's really up to the shoppers and the member owners to make those decisions. So that's really cool to hear that they're open to, a big HFC influence if we were to open a Hillsborough store together.
Hey, Jessica, I just wanted to maybe add one other piece to that. And you're right that there is a range of products that stores can carry. And I just wanted to have us all sort of go back to the market study that we originally had performed for our specific site in downtown Hillsborough. There is the preference of our ownership base and what they want when shopping, but I think there's also another consideration for just general market feasibility. And our market study specifically referenced the types of products that consultant felt like we could bring to market and have our store be financially feasible. And the term that Debbie used was clean conventional. So I think that kind of gives you a flavor of like a spectrum of conventional over to full organic, local produce, all the things that I think a lot of people identify with on an philosophical level will probably be somewhere more in the middle of that spectrum. And to go back to sort of what Tim had mentioned too before, that there's good alignment there with fresh foods and the product mix that they carry at their other stores. So I'm not sure, you talked about Astoria compared to like Cannon Beach, Manzanita, the spot where Fresh Foods has stores. Those markets may be slightly different too, which is why you see different product mixes among the stores, but there may be also other issues just with it being a co-op versus an independent grocer.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Keith again, and I want to jump in here just for a second. So thanks, Jessica. I like the stuff you were saying. So yeah, I mean, okay, so I got involved with Hillsborough Food Co-op. I became a member because I consider myself kind of a closet hippie, like I'm a closet tree hugger, right? And so I'm not familiar with fresh foods. I was just looking them up, Googling and looking at the store, and I believe I've actually shopped at the store in Manzanita. But yeah, if I'm a hippie and I'm oh yeah, I want to go to the food co-op, and I go and I park my Prius and I walk over and go in the front door and there's a big sign that says fresh foods. I'd be like, wow, who are these guys? And oh no, I'm shopping with a man, So that's what I talk about when I talk about what I think it's a little alarming, or it would be alarming for owners. So please, if you're looking, like, make sure that they understand the buy-in. Like, what is the level of involvement? Are these folks just giving capital and giving guidance? I'm sorry, perhaps you've already answered that kind of stuff, but I admittedly was only halfway listening at the beginning. So yeah, I think I see how it could be beneficial, but I'm just trying to speak for all the closet hippies. I would definitely need more information as to what their level of involvement was going to be. Thanks.
I'm a closet hippie too, Keith.
Cool. I won't tell anybody.
I'm just going to put out the idea that I don't think people need to be closet hippies. We can be out of the closet hippies. I think Dale sets a very, very good standard. And
one thing I want to mention, so Brandon and Tim have been the most involved with the partnership discussions. So I kind of want to speak to it because, like you, Keith, I'm probably a little more on the outside. Like, I really only know this most recent briefing because like it's still in such early stages. So I wanted to let you know that from my perspective, we would be doing the capital campaign either way. So because it almost sounds like maybe some of your thinking is that we would be partnering with them solely because we can't afford to open a co-op. But the truth is we're kind of at the same stage and the same financial situation as many co-ops across the country that have opened. And so the capital campaign would be happening either way. Like we do need to raise the money. And I think that a partnership doesn't mean that we're just going to get a free ride and then be sort of under their thumb, if that makes sense. I think one of the big issues is that because Fresh Foods made this proposal with Block 67, and that's a project that's going through, that's a new grocery store in Hillsborough, and that adds competition for us. That's like one thing, is that it changes the market study we've done. There's now a new grocery store in Hillsborough, and so I think that is also one aspect, is trying to open a store and raise the money in atmosphere with a brand new grocery store downtown also posed a challenge. And so we're trying to look at different ways of, rather than trying to fight it, is there a way we could join forces? And I think hopefully it's also clear from what Brandon said earlier, this is not a for sure thing. It would absolutely be up to the members to say that it's okay or not okay with them. So I just wanted to drive those points home. But either way, the number that Tim threw out, the $2+ million, we're raising that either way, I think. So there's an effort, a financial effort, grants, and all that still needs to be done regardless of how we're going to go forward.
And I think maybe another piece that I heard from you, Keith, was about the brand of our store. And that's something we've talked a little bit about with Fresh Foods. And I am optimistic that we'll be able to preserve our Hillsborough Food Co-op brand as part of the joint venture. As Jessica mentioned, they have some private label products that they sell, and they would intend to sell those in the store. So I think there's going to be some sub-branding that includes the Fresh Foods logo and whatnot, just to know that, yeah, the store is being operated by that same entity. But generally, I think we can see the Hillsborough Food Co-op brand preserved in the store.
Yeah, and just to make a comment about the private labeling, one of the things I really like about that is they engaged in that as a way to really tap into the local producers, farmer, dairy, etc., to be able to provide something that's unique to their store, but is really tapping into local producers. They're not going to national chains and getting a private label or doing something on their own. They're buying from local producers, which is very aligned to our mentality in the co-op.
Tim, did you say Fresh Foods is that?
Yes, the Fresh Foods private labels.
Ah, I like that. Thank you.
One of the ideas, which I think really helps address some of the, as a co-op, the owners would be in charge of the co-op, right? You get to elect the board, you vote on any bylaw changes, and with a partnership idea, it should feel natural. Like how much control do we lose? Or like if there's a partnership, there must be a balance. So there's an idea that there would be a management committee or a committee with members from both sides of the partnership that would be in kind of an oversight committee. Maybe think of it like the board, and that. So we're trying to figure out how to make sure there's this voice and some influence or even control that the co-op would have over the entity. But then there's like when you put it down in a legal document, it's like, well, who's got the 51% or something like that. So it's tricky, but I'm bringing that up not to make things sound more complicated, but to try to say that we're super aware of that need for owners to be in charge of their store, and making sure that we understand if there's anything where we're giving things up, that we understand exactly what it is, can explain all that to owners, and owners could say, yeah, I like that, or no way, I don't like that. And I think that's just right where we are now, is trying to explore and understand this in more detail to see if it's really, like we think it's it's each step of the way. I might have been one of the biggest skeptics actually, each step of the way, but it's always made sense to explore it because it's like, oh, this could be an opportunity. This could be really great for owners. So we keep inching our way toward it, and it keeps on looking possible. So yeah.
So I just have a quick question. First of all, I think it's great that you guys are looking at, you know, all the different things, because that's how things get done, is when we don't get, you know, caught up in the way it's always been. I haven't had very much time to think about this, so this is just an idea or a question, but what about some sort of a possibility, I have no idea how this would work, where it was a shared space, but not a shared store? You know, I think about Hank's when it used to be there, and the bakery that was next door. And I'm not sure that they were connected, but I always felt like they were connected. So, you know, if you carve out a space in the building where it's the co-op stuff, and then you have the fresh food stuff. And if that gave, and again, legally and logistically and all those things, I don't know how that would work, but it might give owners a better feel of control and individuality. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
Kind of like a Starbucks inside a Safeway type thing,
Yeah.
to use a very corporate example.
So I have a question. What would the board structure look like in a partnership like that?
Boy,
But a lot of those details I think need to be worked out, but I think at a high level, the food co-op would still have its same structure as it is today. But the food co-op and Fresh Foods would have a joint venture LLC, and that would be a different entity that would have a similar structure of you know, of a board oversight board or management committee, but it basically would be the board of the LLC that would be a mixture of Fresh Foods and Hillsborough Food Co-op.
Okay, I'm not sure what that would look like, but it's good enough for now. Thank you,
Okay,
Tim.
yeah, we don't know what that looks like either yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our board for the co-op would appoint directors to participate on that management committee, and then would advance the needs of the co-op within that partnership, within our shared store alongside Fresh Foods. And we're still, like Tim said, we're still sort of figuring that out. And I know we'll have some voice, and I think the real question is, will it be a majority voice for the management committee, or is it going to just be an advisory minority voice? And that's something I think we'll need to consider really closely and carefully as we move forward with this. I think everyone's initial reaction is going to be, we need to have majority ownership, but I would hope people can consider that as one factor in making this decision alongside many factors, just because in making the partnership, it may not be possible for us to have the majority voice.
I have a question too about, I mean, Block 67 has been sitting there a while. Is there any actual movement from the city to develop it? Or is this going to be another 5 years later, it's still a gravel lot and we're sitting here waiting? Like, would it have made more sense to just do it on our own somewhere else?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Karen. The indications we've received around timing are that it's progressing. And we don't have a specific date, but I think they're sort of penciling in sometime in 2024 to begin construction on the standalone. So they're the alternative that they're considering right now, they as in the partnership, not a partnership with Fresh Foods, but their development partnership is to have a standalone store on a corner of the lot somewhere. And so I think while we're working with Fresh Foods, the developer Remble may start building some of the other pieces on that Block 67 site, but we're just trying to stay focused on the standalone part and the store. So we're not exactly sure when construction would happen, but my understanding is that Fresh Foods and the developer have moved along in the development process and have started creating some of the preliminary designs and engineering plans for the standalone store specifically. So I hope that answers your question. I know that's not like a date or anything, but I'm from what I can tell, it seems like they've made progress with the city.
Betty had something in the chat that I just didn't want to get buried. She said, has any major Oregon food companies been contacted for investment opportunities like Bob's Red Mill, Dave Killer Bread, Cricket Flour, etc.? So I don't know if that's something we can answer now or just didn't want her to get lost.
Thanks, Alyssa. I reached out to Betty privately in a chat, and I think that she and I are going to have a little email exchange and see if we can move some of those ideas forward and at least get them, you know, documented. So unless anybody has any answers for Betty right now, I already reached out for separately because I didn't think we had any answers today for her on that question. So I just to answer that for anybody else who's wondering about Betty's question. I don't have any answers for that, or we haven't contacted anybody for that capacity.
So would the proposed partnership alter the investment requirement that investors be members?
I think the way that would work is HFC, as it is structured today, would provide capital to the joint venture. And so HFC, we would still do a capital campaign and still have, you know, loans that had a fixed interest rate or whatever. And the store would get the benefit of that capital along with capital from Fresh Foods. But did that answer your question, Dale, or was it a different question?
Well, I mean, unless I misunderstood Betty's question, was she asking about just reaching out to the corporate world in general for investments? And that's what we've talked about in the past of not being able to do. Unless
we wouldn't. There's not really in the co-op model. There's not a lot of structure for there to just be outside investors who have a big stake in it, but they could make donations. That would be part of the total pie, but
but they could become owner members as well. And yeah, I where I thought you were going with was in terms of the Oregon co-op laws. You do have, well, to have it under Oregon law versus federal law. Federal would be different, but under Oregon law, that would have to be an Oregon-based member that is actually a member to be an investor. And I think that would still hold true with this approach with the partnership, because it would be investment in the co-op, not into the LLC. As Adam mentioned, Fresh Foods has their own side of it, and they can do their own private investment, you know, and that's on their side of the house. But relative to the food co-op, getting Bob's Red Mill as an investor, like preferred shares or something, or a member loan, they would actually have to be a member of the co-op and based in Oregon.
And just to put an even finer point on that, I mean, our bylaws today say that member owners are natural persons. And so when we talk about our business partners on our website, which is great, it's an individual in that business who's become an owner, and if they participate on an individual basis, it's great. But for something like a Bob's Red Mill, as an entity, it's still quite tricky, and we'd have to change the bylaws and owner vote and everything to do that. So that would be a major change from our current structure.
Good point.
Karen, were you going to say the same thing?
Oh, I was
gonna ask if that was one of the bylaws you were considering changing, because I hadn't.
Actually, it is. Well, it only is being considered. It's on my list of things to do with the board because Katie asked us, do we want to change our bylaws to include businesses as owners? And we haven't talked about it yet.
Do we have any other questions before we wrap? Going once, going twice?
I guess I just want to ask you, I want to ask a question to the owners and get feedback, like what, maybe just advice for how to collaborate with owners on this partnership work. I mean, the board can go and do things and drive things forward, but the more that, I don't think it will be something like we just communicate that something's happening to owners and try to get them to buy off. We need some owner partnership. I think of as more like a focus group or a committee or something that's kind of working on this together, and that we can iterate over time as we determine if there are the exact details of the partnership that would work. And so does anybody have ideas for great ways to go through that process together?
Yeah, do you want to like maybe do a survey monkey kind of thing, and you put together a poll and have multiple choice? Hey, I think it would be great to partner with Starbucks. Hey, I think those guys are corporate pigs. Hey, so you have different choices, multiple choice, and you send it out to all the owners. I think most people would just spend 5 minutes to do a little quick multiple choice kind of quiz and send you back. That's my idea, just to make it easy.
Yeah, that's great. We've definitely done some polls in the past. One thing I'm worried about, like initially, there's so many unknowns, to devise the survey could be risky.
Maybe like would a in-person sort of Q&A that sort of expands on this format be beneficial, so that we can like garner some of the concerns that members might have? So that's something that we could specifically look into, just because at this point, like all the details are not known. So it's like, it might be hard in a survey to say, do you like this partnership? But like at this time, we couldn't even describe to you like what the owner structure looks like or what the investment would be required. So it would be difficult to maybe make an educated guess at this point, or an educated poll option. But maybe some type of community forum.
I mean, now that you said that too, Alyssa and Keith, thinking on your survey, it makes me think we could start to devise some survey questions that help us figure out like where the dial needs to be in terms of, say, ownership control in the partnership, things like that. Anyhow, yeah, more ideas. This is great if people have more ideas, because this is the next step thing that we have to figure out.
Yeah, or like a series of surveys, maybe like monthly, like we've been, like a readiness survey where we could say, here's the current information, what are your thoughts? And then a month later, here's the updated information, have your thoughts changed? And just kind of keep the pulse like that.
Do we get a lot of response from our electronic communication? For example, what % of the membership voted for the board positions?
Good question.
Our secretary, who should have that answer, isn't here, so I don't know if anybody has the answer today. But in the past, it's been over 100.
Over 100, so 100, so like 10%, less than a little over 10%.
Well, and that's a historic data point.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I didn't.
Owner number was 600 then. Yeah.
That wasn't a pop quiz. I was just
yeah.
So
Yeah, right.
the reason I ask, and it's probably because I'm checking here and it looks like I have the grayest hair of everybody, but since this is, which yes, Dale and I have always been in competition on our. I'm growing mine too, Dale, so watch out. So because this is a significant development, you know how we all are inundated with emails, and sometimes we just sort of barely look at them, or we delete them or whatever. I wonder, and I do realize this would cost money, but I wonder about an initial introduction of this idea through snail mail, just to get people's attention. And then tell them that we would be sending out further communication electronically with a certain subject line or something, just so we can get us, to engage as many people as possible, because people will open an envelope where few people throw something in the trash where it's really easy to delete an email. So
yeah, and we could even try phone calls as well, when we have a solid thing to ask, I think. But I think snail mail is a good idea.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
Yeah.
I like the idea of doing in-person events as well. Like, as we can see, this meeting was not terribly well attended. And I think people are maybe getting a little burnt out on Zoom and electronic stuff after being hidden for years. And I also appreciate that you are going to treat this as saying, hey, we don't actually know what this is going to look like. So don't ask us that, but asking them, what do you want this to look like? What do you not want to lose? And getting it up front that we need to know what we want to know, what you want our store to look like, which we haven't heard in a while from owners anyway, I don't think. So it's going to be good data either way. Yeah, so I really like that you're just approaching it as, tell us what we need so that we don't go farther with this relationship and spend all our time on it if we realize there's no way they're going to agree to letting us have complete control and painting the walls rainbow and whatever. Like, so just an example.
Just an example.
Yeah.
It'd be great to just have some in-person, what do you call that type of session? It would just be a big feedback session.
Yeah. I'm
Is a
thinking of
focus
like
group?
Yes, focus group. I was thinking of like Parks and Rec, like the Lexley Nope like groups. And I was like, what does she call those? Because like that's what in my mind was gonna happen.
I'm writing Parks and Rec.
Focus group.
We need a Leslie Nope.
And we do have the benefit of the nicer weather coming up, and maybe when we know more, this would be something that we can also sort of try to advertise at one of the booths or something where we know people will be passing by and we'll see familiar faces. And
yeah. Okay, well, that was I added that last question, so thanks.
Thanks, Adam.
So I have a question for Keith. Keith, did you say you were going to be at the next volunteer orientation event?
If that's the thing on May 10th, it's an interest something or other. Yes, I'm going to be there.
Well, good. I will be there just to meet you.
Right. I think I actually met you at something at the Shoot Park Library, but it's been a couple of years. So I look forward to meeting you again.
Yeah, we haven't had, well, it would have been an outreach meeting and we haven't had them there for quite some time. So yeah. Okay, well, I will plan on coming to that event then. So even though I'm all volunteer.
Great. I'll see you then.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for attending our annual meeting for 2023, and feel free to shoot us questions at the info@hillsborofood.coop email address. Reach out to any of the board members with questions. Visit us at the Hillsboro food market or farmers market. And I think we're going to call it a wrap for this year.
Well, I want to thank the board particularly for, and I mean this is serious, this not being a smart aleck, but thank you for opening the worm can, because it certainly is, and I am greatly relieved that this is out in the open.
Good. Yeah.
Very difficult knowing about this and not being able to talk about it at all. So thank you.
Great.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.